Hi YouTube, this is Raven. I'm a survivor of a 16-year marriage to a covert narcissist or someone with a personality disorder. I'm not sure whether he had NPD or BPD, borderline personality disorder, as he's not been officially diagnosed by a mental health care provider with NPD or BPD. This is just simply my opinion based on a 16-plus year marriage and observations of his behavior. Now, it's been a couple weeks since I made a video, and cats always love to get in the video for some reason. But it's been a couple weeks because I was gone for vacation, and then I was gone for 2 weeks for the Army Reserves. We have every year we have 2 weeks of training. It's called annual training. And whenever you're away from home, you know, you're out of your routine. You know, things happen. I guess, you know, you start to think, and especially once you've been away from the narcissist for any length of time, you start to see things differently. You come out of the fog. You know, they call it the, FOG, fear, obligation, guilt. And you come out of the fog and you start to see things so differently because the narcissist had you convinced that your reality was reality for everyone else, that's normal. You know, the way that they're treating you, that's normal. You know, you're just too sensitive, you know. So these moments kind of hit me at odd times, and this odd time was while I was on annual training, and I had to ride a government van with a couple married couples that are in our Army Reserve unit. We had to ride the government van every day back and forth to the installation where we were having training. And I got to listen to their conversations over several days. And one day, it just hit me. I'm listening to their conversations, and I'm like, they have each other's backs. I never had that in my relationship with Narc. I didn't feel like he was always there for me, that he was going to, no matter what, he was going to be there. He was going to, he would have my back. You know, in the military, we have, the clock where, something straight in front of you is 12 o'clock, and 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock is your back. These married couples, they had each other's sixes. They were going to watch, each other's sixes to make sure that nothing happened. I didn't have that with him. And it was very evident at many times in our marriage, but I just didn't really see it, or I thought, that it was normal. Like, for instance, there was one time early on when we were married, and this is very similar to the movie Meet the Parents. If you've seen Meet the Parents, this young man, he gets engaged to this girl, and he goes home to meet her parents, meet his in-laws. And he cannot please these people at all. I mean, he can't please them. And they put him in a room to stay downstairs. It's in an office. And he tells him, the father-in-law to be tells him, don't use the toilet, the downstairs toilet. It runs all the time. Well, first of all, I wouldn't put a guest in my home in a room that, they can't use the toilet, even though he says in the movie, that way you'll have your own bathroom. Well, you can't use it. And so what happens in the movie, in the middle of the night, Greg is tired, he gets up, he stumbles into the bathroom, flushes the toilet, and he's like, oh crap, and it ends up that it runs and runs all night long, and then they have a problem with the septic tank, and it's all his fault. And what happened to me was, we went up early in our marriage, we went up to my husband's uncle's house off the Chesapeake Bay, and it was an older house. I think it was built like in the 70s or whatever, and it had very bad plumbing. And one of the toilets, I mean, you could barely flush the toilet and it would stop up. And I had to use the bathroom, and everybody's in there, and this bathroom was that I was allowed to use was right off the kitchen, off the pantry and off the kitchen. And I went to use the bathroom, and I must have put too much toilet paper in it because I flush it, it stops up. Now, I freak out at this point because there's no plunger. Now, if you have a toilet that stops up all the time, you common sense, you would keep a plunger in that bathroom. And so I'm looking, I can't find a plunger. And I have to come out of that bathroom, and I know once I come out of that bathroom, because other people need to use it, at some point that they're all going to, they're all going to know that, oh, Raven stopped up the toilet. What were you eating last night? I mean, that's the way my mother-in-law would have been. And so this is now my mother-in-law and all of her family, and they're all judging me. I can't do anything or say anything without being judged horribly by them. And so I'm panicking at this point. I'm panicking. I don't know what to do. And I kind of knew that my husband was not going to have my back. I think I knew that because he was trying to, he had always been the scapegoat in his family. So he wants to try and, fit in with these people. So I go to him, very quietly, and I tell him, it's like, I stopped up the toilet. It's like, I don't know what to do. It's like, everybody's going to find out. And he's like, I'll handle this. I'll handle this. Don't worry about it, So he goes and he goes to his aunt and asks her very loudly, I need the plunger. Raven stopped up the toilet. Do you have a plunger? I mean, he made it so loud where everybody knew now, and it was so embarrassing. And he didn't have my back. He wanted to make fun of me, so that it would take, it takes the heat off of him being the scapegoat. He didn't have my back. And the same thing happened during child custody when the custody started, when the divorce started, that he didn't have the children's backs. And that was, he was out for himself because he decided, I want 50-50 custody and nothing else, 50-50 custody. Well, what he meant was he wanted the kids 1 week, and then I would have them the next week, and then 1 week, and then, alternating. And, that works good if you have, like, children that are not school age, and you live in the same town and stuff, that arrangement might work. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work. He didn't take into consideration that I had been forced to move to my grandmother's farmhouse, which is, like, in a different county, different school district. It's like, where would the kids go to school? And how would they get to school when they were with me or when they're with him? He didn't take any of these things into consideration, and he didn't care. And he let me know that he didn't care, because it was going to be 50-50. This is how we're going to do it. And he even came to the custody mediation. He had already had a calendar filled out. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. And he puts this calendar down in front of the mediator. And it was all about him. It was all about what was convenient for him. And it's the same now, whenever he takes the kids, it's always whatever's convenient for him. He doesn't care, if it's inconvenient for the children or if it's inconvenient for me. He doesn't care about that. But and it was also evident when we had a pretrial deposition where the lawyer was asking him questions, and she said, well, why were you always yelling? She says that you yelled at her all the time. And he would say, I was standing up for myself. I was standing up for myself. And he said it just like that. And the lawyer, she didn't take that to mean that he has a personality disorder and this guy is kind of, has got some problems. She just comes back after the deposition and we're in her office. She's like, he's crazy. He's just crazy. And, I couldn't convince her that I think he has a personality disorder. She didn't want to hear any of that stuff, because she thought that she had him over a barrel now because he had lied in the deposition. But, she didn't realize that, that's not the way, just because he lied, that's not going to make him behave. It's not going to make him back down and not want to have a jury trial. But, because he was all out for himself. It's everything, is about himself. And I learned that in counseling, when we went to couples counseling, that everything is all about him. He doesn't really care about anybody else. It made me sad, to think about all these things that, here I am listening to these married couples talk to each other and interact with each other. And it's sad to think that for 16 years, I went through that and I didn't have that. And I was telling my counselor the other day, when I went for a session, that I don't want to date anyone or marry someone that I don't know has my back. And that's one of the things I want to look for. Are they out for number one all the time, or, are they out for you? And she said that, marriage is not 50-50. Marriage is more like 60-60, that you've got to give more than 50%. I think it's more like 100-100. But it made me sad. I was depressed for a couple days thinking about that. It's like, why didn't I realize, that was not normal, that his behavior, was abusive. But, I was also telling the counselor that there was a guy at the pool the other day who was trying to flirt with me. And what went through my mind immediately was, I can't see myself naked with this person. Nope, not happening. And she's like, why do you have to jump from point A to point Z? And I'm like, I don't know. It just went there. I'm like, okay, can't see myself naked with this person. Obviously, we're not going to date, and we're not going to get married, and we're not going to have sex. And she was like, you need to take things one step at a time. It's like, I know, but, that's just, I guess, just where my mind went. Because I was telling her that the way my marriage went is that it didn't start out bad, but it got incrementally, it was very incremental. Things started happening. And I didn't recognize that we were going through the sweet mean cycle in abuse, where, the guy is mean to you, the guy or the girl's mean to you, and then they do something sweet. And that's the way he always was. He could pull off these grand gestures, and pull me back in. I was reading Tina Swithin's book, The Narc Decoder, and there's a letter from her narc, I think it's an email, and he goes into all this poetry that he wants her back, and he's talking about how last night when I was running up the side of such and such a mountain, and I was looking at the doves flying in the air, and I got up further, and he's just doing all this poetry, pulling it out of his ass. And that's the way my narc would have done. He was very smooth when he needed to be. He was very charming when he needed to be. And the rest of the time, he was mean. But he could pull it out. He could pull bullshit out of his ass and con pretty much anybody. But I think that some karma is finally happening to him. The other day when I picked up the kids, he had bought a brand new car, and I knew he was going to do it because money burns a hole in his pocket. He can't just he can't just not spend money. And he has sold his condo. He made like $40,000 off the sale of the condo, but it's not because of money that he put into the condo. It's because his parents bought the condo for him. And he just recently sold it, and he bought a new house with the girlfriend. Well, of course, the money that he had left over was burning a hole in his pocket, so he bought a new car, even though supposedly he's going to not have a job in a couple months because he's been fired. He's been let go from the company. Well, he had to let me know that he got a new job in the company, and he wanted to let me know that life is going to be difficult for him now, and I know what that means. It means that he's probably not going to take the kids as much as he normally would, because, he has to work. This is an important job. But he was telling me about how that I'm going to have to start working downtown now. I have to drive downtown. And he wanted me to feel sorry for him, that he's going to have now a 45-minute to an hour commute to work and back from work. This is 2 hours of driving he's going to have to do each day. And he's trying to make me feel sorry for him. Because he just moved to that house that's further away from the downtown. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm not going to feel sorry for you. Lots of people have commutes. But he was talking about, but it's going to be less money, even though it's the same amount of money. It was a lateral transfer. But it's going to be less money because I have to pay to park downtown. And I'm going to have to buy all new clothes to wear to work. And he just goes on and on. I was being a jerk. I was like, this is great. You have a job downtown. This is going to be great. No, it's not great. He's trying to make me feel sorry for him, and I'm not going to feel sorry for him. But the person I am feeling sorry for is his girlfriend, because now she's in the position I was in. When he went to work, I know he had a work wife, her, and he was flirting with people. And so now that he's has a new job, and he's got new clothes, and the new car and the house, he's going to be looking for a new woman. And, because he doesn't have her back either. But anyways, that's all for now. Be vigilant, be safe, take care.